Court has granted temporary relief to social media influencer Ranveer Allahbadia from being arrested, provided he cooperates with the police investigation. However, the Supreme Court came down on him like a ton of bricks, calling him perverted and a man with a dirty mind. I'm Barkha. You're with the Mojo story. For the last many days, Ranveer Allahbadia, who finds himself in the eye of the proverbial storm, has been literally missing. While the police force of 3 states is looking for him, this after his sex with parents, pretty gross remark, made on a show called India's Got Latent, a debate has erupted as to whether, beyond poor taste and objectionable content, this is a criminal offence. The police and the state clearly believes it is. Ranveer Allahbadia has gone underground and he was defended today by Abhinav Chandrachud. As a coincidence, an interesting detail is that Abhinav is the son of former CGI Dhananjay Chandrachud. The fact that the case got heard at all seems to suggest that it's been treated as a priority case. Remember, the Supreme Court is facing a backlog of thousands and thousands of cases. Yet, this was a pretty speedy hearing from somebody who has been missing and whose actions have divided public opinion. There are those who believe that he went simply too far. He was never an innocent babe in the woods. He contributed to creating the kind of ecosystem that has come after him today. And there are others who argue that this is entirely a criminal waste of time and resources. Is it a free speech debate? Not everybody agrees on that, not even those who don't agree with police action. Let's introduce our guest today as we look at the scathing rebuke by the Supreme Court to Ranveer Allahbadia. Joining me now is Raja Sen, well-known film critic and author. Raja, always good to see you. Yashu Azad, veteran IPS officer who was very disturbed the first time we spoke about Mr. Allahbadia's comments, is back with us. With the passage of time, is he feeling differently? We'll find out. Kushal Mehra. Kushal is seeing this as the free speech debate. He thinks it's idiotic that any time is being spent on this, and this is a dangerous precedent to set for what may come next. Today we don't like what Ranveer said. Tomorrow it could be what Kushal says, I say, Raja says, Dilip says, or Yasho says. And finally, Dilip Cherian, who brought, I think, much needed perspective by saying, hang on, this isn't a first principles free speech debate. This is not about that. Find other ways if you want to, but you've got to have deterrence for this kind of content. So a lot to talk about. Yashozad, I'll start with you. When we last spoke, you said what Ranveer had said and done was abhorrent, as had the others who provided him this platform. He has since apologized. He has since said, I've been getting death threats. People are invading my parents' clinics, etc., etc., etc. But the important point is he's been missing. Every single other person has actually shown up to give their testimony. They've appeared before police authorities. He's been missing, and he, to that extent, has been treated as a person somewhat of privilege because he was able to get a hearing pretty soon, especially when I rewind and I think of how long, let's say, it took a Munawwar Farooqi to get his case heard, how many courts he had to go through, and so on. And again, this is not about religion. I'm just doing comedian to comedian, a kind of analogy. Do you think bahut ho gaya, khatam karo isko, or do you think the law will take its own course and should take its own course?
Well, the law should have taken its own course, and this kind of tamasha we create over everything is not really fair to anyone. There is a provision also that if there are about 6 or 7 cases which are just lodged against somebody, then they should be put at one place. Even in the new criminal law, you can file cases from everywhere, but all these cases at zero should be sent to the actual police station which has the jurisdiction. This should have been done. So it's very unfortunate that one thing which can be which can be cleared in procedurally normal manner, we hype it so much and then Supreme Court has to intervene. But as far as second part you raised, I totally agree that Supreme Court, anybody seems with any kind of lawyer facility and big power and money can approach, whereas so many cases of under trials are still languishing who should actually be heard in the Supreme Court. But yes, in the end, I would certainly say that enough is enough. A simple case of obscenity, 292 to 94, even in IT Act, Section 67 has a punishment for 2 years. So in 41A, he would have been called and the actual procedure could have been gone through. This is unfortunate of creating this huge tamasha about it.
But you do believe that that police action is commensurate, that the police needs to be involved.
Yes, I think the Obscenity Act is attracted, and he should go through it. I mean, it's not a very severe punishment or anything. So, as Dilip says, it's a kind of a deterrence, and which should be applied.
So you think that in a way it's gone too far. This has gone stretched on too long. It was a simple case of an obscenity act being applied. Ranveer Allabadia could have cooperated. The matter would have kind of ended there. And it didn't have to go through this whole rigmarole. Let me get Kushal. Kushal, what agitates you? And before you answer, let me say a couple of things. I personally am neither a fan of Ranveer Allabadia nor of police action. I am uncomfortable with any situation which gives the state and the government too much power. It can be any government. Uh, I, however, do believe, and I've quoted this example to you on social media, and I'm doing it again. Ranveer Allahbadia is not a young guy just starting out. He has contributed to the making of this culture where, oh my God, some people are anti-national, some people are this, some people are that. And he has, in his own interviews, a much awarded figure as we see, in his own interviews, raised questions, bizarre questions like name 3 Indians who should be sent out of India. Today, he's an Indian who's been asked not to leave the country. His passport has been impounded on the orders of the Supreme Court. What goes around comes around. The reason that I am not a fan of police action, but I find it tough to feel bad for him, is because he's contributed to the making of this ecosystem.
Yeah, first of all, for this entire podcast, I identify as Galidas, not Kushal Mehra. So that's my name officially.
Just don't please do any galis because my show will be
मुझे बोलने की
taken down
जरूरत
by
नहीं.
YouTube.
T-shirt says it all. My T-shirt
हाँ.
says it all. I am Galidas. I am a connoisseur of galis. And जिसको मेरे को जेल में डालना है डाल दे उसके लिए. मैं जाने को तैयार हूँ. The biggest problem in this country is people confuse individuals with ideas. When you give the state so much power, the state will never take it back. It is rather the naivety of the Indian discourse that it thinks that these things can be controlled by the state. You know, this is the classic case of the revenge of the uncles and aunties. That's what it is. This is the revenge of the uncles and aunties of India. उनके बच्चे उनकी सुनते नहीं हो, उन्होंने अपने बच्चों की frustration रणवीर अलाबादिया पे निकाल दी. The irony is I have not watched a single minute of that guy's podcast. Nor will I in the future. I have no time for all of that. ठीक है, मैं ये सब नहीं कंज्यूम करता हूँ. मैं बुक्स पढ़ता हूँ. मैं नहीं देखता ये सब. But the point is, I don't care.
Manoj Bajpayee ने कहा ना, when asked to comment on this, he said, "अरे यार अखबार पढ़ लो." What he meant was read a little more. Why are you dumbing yourself down? But Kushal, you're not answering my question. I don't watch Ranveer Allabadia, but I happen to watch that clip because guess what? One of the 3 Indians who should be sent out of India was me,
I know.
according to his interview.
So it was a silly question.
But he asked, it's not just silly, it's dangerous. This kind of chatter is dangerous.
Barkha, yaar, then you say don't bring religion. Do you want me to quote religious texts in this country? मैं quote करूं cutting across religious lines? उनसे dangerous है. उनसे dangerous है.
I am telling you I'm not a fan of police action. Yeah, I'm telling you I'm not a fan of police action. But I don't think this boy is a babe in the woods. Both things can be true.
Like a babe in the woods. Why are you guys making it about him?
Both things can be true. That's all. But go ahead.
Which is, Barkha, it is not about Ranveer Allabadia. If things are threatening, there is nothing more threatening than religious texts. I, as an atheist, am offended by every single religious text. Will the state start removing those verses which has misogyny in religious texts, cutting across religions? किसी में हिम्मत नहीं होगी बोलने की. यार हम क्या मजाक कर रहे हैं. एक वो पॉपुलर है, सबको क्लिक्स मिलने वाले हैं, पेलो. बस उसको पेल रहे हैं. आज कल कोई और पॉपुलर आदमी बोलेगा, उसको पेलेंगे. हिम्मत किसी में है नहीं. असली बात ये है. The main topic is how can the state have so much power? And Barkha, my question is to you as a woman. Today's discourse, Dr. Chandrachud, one of the courts accused are threatened with acid attacks. I'm reading Bar and Bench. In Nupur case, statement was worse. Justice Kant, that is okay. Threats are there every day. State can take any action. अभी acid attacks को normal जवाब दिया जाएगा. Yaar, what are we normalizing in this country? It is not about the individual. People are crass. People are stupid. They say stupid things. Move on.
Okay. I kind of agree with you that I'm not comfortable with the state, institutions of the state having too much power. But I want to bring in Dilip because Dilip, very early on, you reminded us this ain't a free speech debate, right? This is about also the kind of content that's allowed to thrive. And I think I've shared these examples before, but I think Kushal hasn't heard me sharing them. Kushal, when I was reporting on Manipur, when the violence first erupted, and two women were stripped naked, we hid the identity of the women. We blurred those images. We were made to take down any programming that made a reference to that video. I'm just saying that YouTube and all of these social media networks can be very stringent when they want to. I could not report on Atul Subhash's dying testimony because it was seen to be promoting self-harm. I'm just saying there seem to be very rigid rules for content sometimes, and sometimes not at all. I want Dilip to
Barkha,
respond to one-liner. Yeah, Kushal.
Barkha,
Yeah,
just give me one moment. Just one
yeah,
moment. You
yeah.
do realize this entire show was behind a paywall, right? It was
I
leaked by someone.
no, I do. But I also think it's not tough for kids to get behind paywalls today. But anyway, let Dilip come in. Dilip, go ahead. Dilip?
I think that we should recognize that this is not about free speech. It's about taste. It's about morality. You can always have arguments saying who is the morality police? Is it the religious text that Kaushal has an issue with? The morality police has to be outside of both religion and the state. It's got to do with taste, good taste. And there's no doubt that what was done behind a paywall or outside a paywall and then transmitted by a whole bunch of other means was both vulgar and unacceptable by most social norms across the world. What was worse is it was copied, it was plagiarized. Number
Mhm.
three, if it was done for reasons of wanting to tell people something new, some messaging, this it was not. It was done with the only objective of raising money for the people involved by having cheap laughter from kids who had taken money from their parents who didn't know what they were spending it on. So I think that there are issues here which we as a society have to confront. I'm totally against police action. Please
Hmm.
understand that I have said very clearly that police action is not the appropriate punishment in this case. The
Hmm.
punishment that is appropriate is to make sure that cheap commercialization of this kind of content is prevented in the future by a censure that involves loss of money for a certain period of time. I'm not saying take him off. I'm saying make sure that he cannot do this just now.
So the best censure, and I've kind of agreed with you on this, like when we, for example, violate, I don't know how many of you know how YouTube works as a platform, but when we, for example, violate community guidelines, if you have 3 community strikes, your platform shuts, by the way. If you get 3 strikes, either on plagiarism or violating community guidelines, the platform just shuts. There is no government there. That's YouTube's own rules, right? There is content that cannot be monetized. If you're seen to be a repeat offender, eventually your account gets shut, right? So, according to me, there are solutions that can come from within the platform. They can be argued by the community of content creators, consumers. But police action is the point. Before this, Mr. Azad feels this is a straightforward case of obscenity. There should be police action, but itna tamashe ke saath nahi. Raja, what's at stake here? You see, what happens is there is a principle, but there's also a lot of skepticism about Mr. Allabadia. And I take Kushal's point, don't confuse the idea with the individual, but that he has been sort of complicit in smearing other people, or certainly not stopping his guests from smearing other people. His platform has often been a context to decide who's a patriot, who's not a patriot, who's good, bad, ugly. And now it's a little bit like Kejriwal, right? Kejriwal used to decide who's corrupt and who's not corrupt, and that came back to haunt him. And a little bit of that is happening with Mr. Allabadia, yet there are principles larger than him at stake. What's at stake?
Yeah, Barkha, I think Schadenfreude is something we need to guard against at this point. Whatever this guy is going through, it's not proportionate to what he's done. What he's done are different things. He's been complicit in certain things. He's been one of the Prime Minister's award-winning disruptors, all of that. But what we are talking about here is primarily this issue of obscenity in India, which, like Kushal said, the revenge of the uncles and aunties, happens largely because India has infantilized its society to such a great degree through so much censorship, that we've had for so many years before the internet came along. And, still in our movies, still in our TV shows, we see a lot of censorship. And so as a result of that, what happens in India is the easy way for a comedian to get a cheap laugh is just to use a swear word. They can say any word that would normally be bleeped and they get applause. So we have created this society by saying you can't say this. By making it forbidden, we have made this clip the most viral clip in the country.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
I think what we need to rethink that. We need to rethink this idea of taking offense to everything. And, when we can talk about, as Dilip said, good taste or bad taste. But if we've seen so many ministers, so many chief ministers, all of these people who have spoken, who've been given us violent hate speech, and that is not being condemned on the scale that this is being condemned. This is a guy who has made a bad joke. We should talk about it in a personal level. We should say, oh, guys, let us not watch his channel. Let us not, let us go to the actors we like and tell him not to be on his show. Things like that you're doing personally as a matter of opinion, that's fine. But the way this is being pushed onto everyone as if it's becoming one big smoke screen again for the media. The Bollywood, as we know, is an easy target. Now the comedians are being made another target, that this is something that we can just talk about, complain. It's easy for everyone to get behind and say we should not make incest jokes about the parents. Like, everybody agrees with that. But we also agree that no one should be out there saying, Goli maro salon ko, and yet they're being elected out there, right? So we have to understand that this situation, we are being way, way too disproportionate in our reaction.
Right. Right. Fair points there. Dilip, on a lighter note, regular viewers of this channel are invoking your old joke about it's not beer biceps, it's now a beer belly, and remembering that with fondness. That had me crack up the last time. But I have a serious questions, despite Prasad saying, we're delighted to see the brand guru who famously equated the term beer belly to this disgusting social trashopath. That's what Prasad Duvuri says. I have a serious question. I take Raja's point. Like, personally, I find a lot of the new generation of social media influencers, and Kushal will now call me one of the aunties. All I'm saying is that to me, there's a lot of bro masculine crap culture. The fact that you call yourself beer biceps, the fact that your early content is 7 ways to pataw a girl. I think we have those slides. A lot of Ranveer Allahbadia's content is 7 ways to pataw a ladki. That is how he started as a content creator, whatever the phrase means. Now, I find there's a lot of toxic masculinity attached to this whole subculture of today's generation of content creators. But I agree with Raja, that's a matter of opinion. That's a matter of taste. It's a matter of opinion. How can the state adjudicate or arbitrate on our taste? We should be worried that this is what people are watching.
Both Kushal and Raja are skirting around a very important issue, which I think we need to discuss, because your show is probably the only show which can discuss it. Don't get worried. I'm going beyond the beer belly aspect of the man. I think he is being made a victim for a reason of pushing down new censorship laws on a lot of people. I think that is the real danger. Is this a kind of Trojan horse to bring in a whole bunch of laws to silence a whole bunch of inconvenient people? That is the real danger. And I think most of us have spotted that. And I'm so glad that the Supreme Court, in a sense, has said, we don't like your taste, mate, but bro, you've said some vicious things, but yet we don't want you arrested. And I think the Supreme Court has done well by doing that.
But why would they pick up one of their own? Why would the government, let's say the government, this is a Trojan horse, the government is going to use this as an example to bring in a new law on, let's say, censorship and so on. I know both Raja and Yasho have their hands up. Just one question. Why would they pick somebody they actually like?
I don't think they picked him up. I don't think they picked him up to do that. He fell into that position where it became convenient to do that. That's all. So us uncles and aunties may be the ones who are actually being played.
Yasho, are we being played? Since from the beginning, you've actually supported a certain degree of police action on this. Go ahead. Are we being played?
I'm finding that the entire debate is debating another issue. that censorship should not be there, police action should not. I totally support you. I totally support you. In fact, 99% of the times, I totally agree that censorship laws should not be there. I am talking about this particular case. That here is a person who's talking about parent sex, and in the most derogatory manner, in a most offensive manner, which crosses any censorship norms. I mean, any limits. And that's exactly.
We agree.
No. So what I'm saying is, if a section of the law is attracted, how can you say that, no, we won't apply this law? This is not about police action. Police is not interested in arresting Ranveer. The government is not interested in focusing on him. He has fallen into this well. And here is a section of the law which is applicable. Now, another thing.
So what you're saying, Yasho, is if the law exists, how will it not be applied? The law exists.
No, and I'm saying something else also. If nobody would have complained, there would have been no problem. Nobody was picking on him on his own. There have been complaints. Some people have been hurt, like you are not hurt and you are happy. Many people are very happy about it. That is fun. It's fine. But there are people who are hurt. So they have referred to a section of the law. A section of the law is obscenity.
What would you do if this complaint had come to you? If you were asked to investigate this case, what would you have done, Yashovardhan Azad?
I would have applied the section obscenity. I would have called him under 41. This is 2 years here.
And
so
now
he
he's
would have
missing. And now he's
sent
missing.
Okay, so he's missing. Fine. So I look for him. Not a big deal. It's not a crime which is, he has murdered somebody or not. What I'm saying is these are very normal processes. We are unnecessarily hyping it up. That's all.
Okay. Kushal and Raja both wanted to come in. Kushal and then Raja. Kushal.
Yeah, see, this is the problem, which is why I said this is the revenge of the uncles and aunties. These laws were drafted by uncles and aunties. The law itself is the problem. It's, it's the famous adage goes, it's the economy, stupid. It's the law, man. That's the problem. The law is the problem. Nobody wants to talk about the law. Kanan Gill cracked the same joke in 2015. Exact same joke. Word for word. The Aussie girl copied it from Reddit in America. Do you know how old this joke is? This is a early 2000s Reddit joke. So, what the Indians are saying is, when this Aussie comes to India, hum aise baithe honge police ke saath. Aare idhar, ladies, tum idhar aao. Tum aisa joke crack kiya. You know what this is going to do? This just shows how stupid we are as a country. That we forgot what happened. मतलब हम क्या करेंगे फिर? हम वेल्स चढ़ाएंगे हमारे मंदिरों के ऊपर जहां पे एरोटिका आर्ट है? हम क्या करेंगे? हमारे कल्चर में ये नॉर्मल था. You know what I do when I don't like something? I just shut it down.
Can you explain something to me? Can you explain something to me? Because the politics of it make me quite curious. You wrote today on your social media that a number of BJP supporters, and I'm going to say it again, Ranveer Allahbadia may not have had an ideology, but he was certainly close to this government. He was seen to be a favorite of this government. All of the ministers lined up to speak to him. Everybody's very curious why they would have turned on somebody who was close to them. They could have just looked the other way. If I'm not wrong, one of the complaints, as Yashwant said, if nobody had complained, the police would have done nothing. It's not a suo moto case. One of the complaints has been filed by a BJP functionary. All of the 3 states where the police are after Ranveer Allahbadia are BJP states. Kushal, can you explain to me ये क्या हो रहा है? क्यों हो रहा है?
देखो 50% ऑनलाइन, बाकी मैं ऑफलाइन फोन पे बता दूंगा. Believe me when I say this, even the people inside the BJP are confused right now. किसी को नहीं पता क्या हो रहा है. ये ऐसा हो गया है कि ये बंदा फेमस था. अभी whether we like it or not, Barkha, I'm not going to name the news channel, but literally मैं तुम्हें privately बताऊंगा. वो न्यूज चैनल के है ना लास्ट 3 दिन के YouTube के है ना क्लिक्स देखना. जिस थंबनेल पे रणवीर की फोटो है और उसका इशू है ना, उसमें क्लिक्स है ऐसे और बाकी सब में क्लिक्स है ऐसे. ये हो क्या गया मालूम है? दिस बॉय अनफॉर्चुनेटली और फॉर्चुनेटली, दैट इज फॉर पीपल टू डिसाइड, सेल्स. समय रैना सेल्स इवन मोर देन दिस बॉय सेल्स. दैट इज द आयरनी ऑफ इट ऑल. आप सिर्फ है ना, आपको मजा करना है ना, एक वीडियो में है ना #India got latent डाल दो और आप देखो कैसे YouTube का एल्गोरिथम उसको पकड़ेगा, क्योंकि ये बच्चे बिकते हैं. अब हो क्या गया मालूम है? सब लोग ने इस बहती गंगा में हाथ धोना शुरू कर दिया है. मैं खुद कह रहा हूं, मैंने बीजेपी के लोगों के साथ बात की है. मैंने बोला ये किसका जीनियस आइडिया था, जरा बताओ इन बच्चों की ठोकने का. किसी को नहीं मालूम है क्या हो रहा है. everything is haywire. अरे मैं खुद बोल रहा हूँ, known BJP IT cell people, अभी नाम नहीं लूंगा, जो पैसे लेके कुछ भी ट्वीट कर देते हैं, ठीक है? और ऐसा नहीं है कि कांग्रेस वाले बोले हम तो ईमानदार है, सालो तुम सबके सब ऐसे ही हो, सब पैसे लेके ट्वीट करते हो, मेरे को नाम नहीं लेने किसी के इधर, मगर सब लोग कंफ्यूज्ड हैं. अच्छा, मजे की बात है, रणवीर अलाबादिया ना, ही इज द मोस्ट यूनाइटिंग फैक्टर ऑफ इंडिया. ही हैज यूनाइटेड एवरीवन. सब उसको पेल रहे हैं बैठ के.
But hang on. Through all this rage, I do think we should talk a moment, we should reflect a moment to speak about relative privilege here. I don't know, Raja, if you will agree with me. Right now, you and Kushal are seeing Ranveer as a sort of, the state's coming down on him a ton of bricks. There is privilege in being a person who doesn't show up when the police calls you. There is privilege in getting an early hearing from the Supreme Court. Many stand-up comics with less privilege have not got such an early hearing. Farooqi spent 35 days in jail. It was finally the Supreme Court that granted him bail. So let's also acknowledge that there is a certain privilege in not showing up for the cop. When the cops call you, you and I, Saif Ali Khan, Kareena Kapoor, everybody would go. This guy has just decided to not show up. I can't hear Raja. We need to unmute Raja.
Sorry.
Raja, are you muted at your end?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So just coming back to what Dilip said actually for a second, I think we need to look at this possibility of this being a more insidious tactic. I think you're right about privilege. You're right about certain rules being flouted and certain, the court hearing and all of that, which just makes me believe, like I'm just going by tinfoil hat right now. If I am writing this as a script for a film, then the way I'm looking at it is that I, as the ruling party, look at one of my people, one of my mouthpieces, and decide, let's put that person in a little bit of trouble, which makes that person suddenly the most talked about person in the country. He immediately releases an apology. He's very contrite. There will be a rehabilitation for him. He'll come back. He'll say, I'll never say anything. I'll be the most sanskari YouTuber of them all. And they'll win him over. But meanwhile, the point that Dilip is making, which is the important point, is that the censorship laws are what are going to be pushed in, because now suddenly everybody, the crowds are all baying for like, oh no, we need censorship. Our children will, get access to phones, and we cannot raise our children. Our phones are raising our children, and they will watch Samay Raina and be corrupted. And the timing of this doesn't also seem accidental, Barkha. Samay Raina had his own audience, his own crowd, his own online clout. But 1 week before this incident, Samay Raina became mainstream because he went on Kaun Banega Crorepati with Amitabh Bachchan. So there is a level of suddenly all eyeballs are on this. It's Samay Raina, it's this, and that's the clip that comes out.
You feel there's something orchestrated, planned about it?
I wouldn't be surprised if it is. I mean, we're not talking with proof here. This is speculative, but I would not be surprised if this is a way to bring in a bill that will be a lot more dangerous than just, a distasteful joke.
Before I get to Dilip, Kushal, you're agitatedly disagreeing with Raja. I think you're saying nobody has the smarts to really plan it like this. Go ahead, Kushal.
Oh, yaar, Occam's razor. The most obvious answer is the most likely one. हम लोग हमारी rationality खो गए हैं. ओ भाई, कोई इतना ये देश में एक खड्डा तो फिक्स नहीं कर सकते हो, पूरे इंटरनेट को कंट्रोल करोगे? यार कुछ तो सोचो ना यार, इतनी कॉन्स्पिरेसी पेल रहे हो यार इधर बैठ के.
No, but that's not true. Hello. There have certainly been moves and attempts to make content on digital platforms
जिनको इंटरनेट की समझ नहीं है ना,
tougher to create.
वो ऐसी बातें करते हैं.
I know the economics.
जिनको इंटरनेट की समझ नहीं है.
The economics of it. There has certainly been an attempt to, for example, FDI in tech companies did not need a FIPB approval. Today it does. Come on, यार, कुशल इतना भी कोई innocent नहीं है. I agree कि इतना भी कोई smart नहीं है.
आप कंट्रोल किसको कर सकते हो? जिसका हैंडल मे बी इंडिया से ओरिजिनेट करता है. आपको मालूम है कितना मिनट लगता है एक हैंडल को इंडिया से सिंगापुर बनाने को? मैं कल चाहूं मैं बना सकता हूं. यार क्या बात कर रहे हैं. अच्छा, मजे की बात है. अच्छा, समय रैना का शो इंडियाज गॉट लेटेंट इज अ कॉपी ऑफ किल टोनी में समय रैना से 20,000 टाइम्स ज्यादा वाहियात जोक्स आते हैं. खुला भी, नो मेंबरशिप, नो पे वॉल, नथिंग. लोग फ्री में देख सकते हैं उसको. All this will do is destroy Indian creators, see, this is not a defense of the joke. This is the defense of the idea कि this is so silly that Kill Tony देख सकते हो, any American show आप देख सकते हो. आप मेरे को बोल रहे हो गवर्नमेंट इंडियंस को कंट्रोल करेगी, गवर्नमेंट किल टोनी को फोन करेगी, टोनी हिंचक्लिफ को बोलेगी,
but what is the purpose then? What is the end goal of this according to you?
Barkha, never attribute to malice that which can be explained with stupidity. Hanlon's razor.
Okay,
the government is stupid. This country is full of stupid people in different parts, inside and outside the government, in the left, in the right. This is the democracy that India has created. हर शाख पे उल्लू बैठा है, यहाँ पे सब गधे हैं. क्या हम लोग बातें कर रहे हैं? गवर्नमेंट कंट्रोल करेगी इंटरनेट को. मेरे को हंसी आ रही है यहाँ पे बैठ के. मैं ना बरखा कुछ नहीं करूंगा. आज मेरा ये आईपी एड्रेस है ना, कल मेरे को गवर्नमेंट बोलेगी मैं कनाडा का कर लूंगा. क्या उखाड़ लेगी गवर्नमेंट मेरा? कुछ नहीं कर सकती.
Acha, you make a compelling argument, but I'm not sure I agree with 100% of it, Dilip, because in every country, if in any country, if the government wants to come after you, yes, I agree with Kushal ki VPN lagao, kahin se bhi operate karo, but there are still finances, there's still your bank account, there are still courts. Look at America. Elon Musk to chalo was with Trump pehle. When Trump won, look at how Meta reversed its entire policy just to be in with the establishment. I am not convinced that I agree with Kushal that largely there's a lot of stupidity. This couldn't be such a smart, well thought out plan. It may have acquired a life of its own, but there must be some end goal. Ye khatam kaise hoga? Dilip?
That's what, yeah. I think that Kushal's point about mass gross stupidity, I buy. I buy also the fact that Beer Belly was just trying to get more eyeballs. I fully agree with all that. But with bad taste, I really have an argument with our nation's taste. I really feel that we ought to examine ourselves, worry about it. What have we made of ourselves? And the only way to do it, to improve taste, is to say, boss, अब पैसे नहीं मिलेगा 3 महीने के लिए, 6 महीने के लिए, उसके बाद तू आ जा. You can come back, and as Raja said, it's possible that he will bounce back bigger and better, but
then the joke's on all of us who lamented taste.
No. I think the joke is on the fact that you have a system which reacts in this particular way. And I think going forward, we are talking of a world where Musk will beam down into your phone. Nothing can stand in the way then. What can you stop?
Yeah. But there is... every time he says beer belly, I can't stop laughing. Because I said to Dilip last time that beer belly will hurt, a masculine bro type sense of self more than an FIR will. But Raja, I don't know. The answer is I don't know. Is this just, nobody getting off the treadmill? Chal raha hai to chal raha hai, ab Supreme Court mein pahunch gaya hai? Or is there a larger conspiracy here? We just don't know.
See, at the very least, this is one of those topics that everyone can immediately have an opinion about. People don't need to be informed. This is one of the news channel topics. This is like, everyone can just decry. Everyone can say at the same time that it's tasteless. So, and like Kushal said, the TRPs will go up for that particular video. And that's what's happening. This should not be primetime conversation anywhere. This is like when Jimmy Carr makes a bad joke and is talking about being cancelled. We are saying, oh, all right, fine. Let's make this cancellation the subject of the day. And that's what is scary here. The proportion is what we need to look at. I mean, we all agree that it's a stupid joke. We all know it's come from somewhere else. We all know that it's not going to do much, but we also know that what will censorship do? What can be censored? Even within this joke, are there any objectionable words that have been used that needed to be bleeped out? No. So what are you going to censor? And at what point do we draw that line about censorship? The basic fear of mine is that we do not get on a let's censor the internet.
No, there are words here that need to be beeped. By the way, there are words here that need to be beeped. Even if I were to put some of this content behind a member's paywall on my platform, I can tell you this from the experience of being a
No,
practitioner.
sure.
I
Understand.
would be in violation of community guidelines. I am going on saying this. We need to pay attention to this. That just because you put your stuff behind a paywall doesn't give you the right to treat that platform as your drawing room. I think here is where we are getting confused. YouTube, can we come out of this? Can we come out of this, please? I want to explain my point to Raja. YouTube has rules. YouTube has rules for content creation. Just because I limit access to members, it doesn't mean I'm not in violation of rules. So let me give you my example. If I were to put Atul Subhash's dying testimony before he takes his own life, and I say members only, YouTube would still strike me. If I were to put the Manipur video and say these are the women who got raped, and I want to talk about them, if it was not within YouTube's community guidelines, YouTube would strike me. It being behind members doesn't mean it's in my house. It's on a platform which has rules. So we have to remember that. I'm against police force, but I think this is in violation of everything that I understand about YouTube's rules. Because I create content on YouTube, and I say it from that perspective, Raja.
So Barkha, by that measure, all we should be doing is just all going and complaining on YouTube and letting it be. Then we don't need to take any further action. No police action, no prime time action, nothing. We should go on YouTube and say thumbs down. This is offending us, and YouTube will take the appropriate action. That's all we need to do. But the thing is,
whether or not it's offending people, I don't think Atul Subhash's video on my platform offended anybody. People watched it in the hundreds of thousands. It was taken down.
But also, Barkha, what happens today is, suppose YouTube takes down a video. By then, the video has already been replicated online. It's being posted on social media so many times. All I'm saying is, today, is there any video that you think cannot be accessed on the internet?
I agree.
No, there is not.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Guidelines are only doing this much.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Let's take last comments. Dilip, and then Kushal gets the closing word. Dilip?
To recognize the limits of technology. We need to recognize the lack of limits of stupidity on the part of both citizenry as well as the machinery which attempts to snuff them out. I think we need to also recognize that bad comics do exist. Poor taste does exist. It needs to be slapped in public, and we need to carry on with life without allowing it to obsess us.
I agree with that. Kushal, closing thought. Nobody knows ये क्यों हो रहा है, क्या हो रहा है, किसने शुरू किया, कैसे खत्म होगा?
I think it could be different reasons for different people. It might be the media, mainstream media, feeling very threatened by the popularity of YouTube. Some may not believe that, but literally India's got Latent. Two things work on YouTube the most. As a YouTuber, even Barkha will vouch for it. Bhoot Pret ki baatein kar lo. यहाँ वल्गर कॉमेडी कर दो. ये दो चीजें सबसे ज्यादा बिकती हैं. The only thing that shows is there is a market for that kind of stuff, whether you like it or not. You cannot judge people for liking something. It is like in 90s, I used to watch Govinda's comedy. What, people are going to sit to me and judge for liking Govinda's comedy now? That I have bad taste. Is bad taste a crime now? I still don't understand this has to be a discussion. I take everyone back to George Carlin, 1971 Milwaukee, when he got arrested for the 7 words you can't say on television. He just said it anyway. That was after Brandenburg versus Ohio. Brandenburg state judgment was in the 60s. The Americans were, sensible enough to realize we just can't stop this tsunami. The revenge of the uncles and aunties is not going to work. They have to realize that kids are going to watch this no matter what. When I grew up, Choli ke piche kya hai created a furor. I remember that as a kid. Choli ke piche hai gaane ke baare mein bhi the revenge of the uncles and aunties and happened. This is another one of those revenge of the uncles. Today, the remarks made by the honorable judge was the classic revenge of the Indian uncle. Ashleel insan. Bas wahi ho raha tha.
I only want to say 2 things in the end. Dilip, you're being urged by our audience to quickly patent and trademark beer belly before somebody steals it from you. And everything else is okay, but I will not be called an auntie. That's it. That is the bottom line. Thank you very much, Dilip, Raja, Kushal, and Yashovardhan Azad. Take care. See you soon. Take care. Bye.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.